So today, we're going to dive into a pretty stark prediction from one of the world's most influential thinkers. And his idea is this: the entire global system that we've all grown up with, it's over. And what's coming next could be a whole lot more chaotic and full of conflict. So what on earth does he mean by that? And there it is. That's the core claim from billionaire investor Ray Dalio. He isn't just saying things are, changing a bit. He's arguing that the fundamental rulebook, the one that has governed the world since the end of World War II, has basically been torn up. It's a huge, almost alarming statement, which naturally raises a big question. Why should we listen to this guy? I mean, really, why does this prediction about the future of the world carry so much weight? Well, for starters, this isn't just some random pundit. Ray Dalio founded the world's largest hedge fund, Bridgewater Associates. We're talking about a guy who advises presidents and prime ministers. But the thing that really makes people sit up and listen, it's his track record. He famously, and more importantly, accurately, predicted the 2008 financial crisis when almost everyone else just didn't see it coming. And he does this by looking for big, repeating patterns in history, which brings us to his core idea. And that brings us right to the heart of his thinking. See, he's developed this whole framework for understanding these massive shifts in global power, and he calls it the big cycle. The basic idea here is that history isn't just random. It's not just one thing after another. Dalio's big argument is that great powers, you can call them empires, tend to rise and fall in a really predictable pattern that just repeats itself over and over again. And he breaks this whole journey down into 6 distinct stages, from birth all the way to collapse. Okay, now what's really fascinating is how Dalio maps this cycle onto recent US history. So stage 1, that kicks off in 1945, a new world order after World War II. Stages 2 and 3, that's the prosperous post-war decades, the good times. But then, stage 4 hits, the 2008 financial crisis, which exposed some deep, deep cracks in the system. And stage 5, well, that's the intense political division, the infighting we see in the US today. And according to Dalio, this all points to one unavoidable conclusion. We are now entering the final and most chaotic stage of the cycle. And look, this isn't just some theory he cooked up about the United States. When you look back through history, this pattern holds up. The Dutch Empire dominated, and then it fell, over a cycle of about 250 years. The British Empire, it followed a nearly identical timeline. And here's the crucial part. Each of those empires, as it started to decline, entered this really volatile 10 to 20-year window that was just filled with conflict. Dalio's argument is that the US has now entered that exact same dangerous window. And this brings us right back to his main point. We are in stage 6, right now. The old order, the one led by the United States, is in decline, and new powers are rising to challenge it. This, he argues, isn't just a possibility. It's a historical inevitability. And that is a recipe for conflict. So what does this conflict actually look like? Dalio predicts it's not going to be fought just with armies and tanks. The next great global struggle, he argues, is going to be something he calls a capital war. All right, let's be super clear on what this actually means. A capital war has nothing to do with capital cities like Washington, D.C. or Beijing. It's about capital as in money, assets, investments. It's a war fought on the balance sheets of nations. To get a handle on this, let's compare it to something we're all pretty familiar with by now, a trade war. A trade war is when countries slap tariffs on each other's goods, right? And that affects the price of things you buy at the store. A capital war is different, and honestly, it's potentially way more damaging. This is when a country like the US actively blocks money from flowing to a rival, like China, and then, in response, those rivals stop buying US debt. The potential chain reaction here is, well, it's kind of frightening. If major countries stop buying US government bonds, it could create a global credit crunch. I mean, think about it. Massive companies that rely on borrowing money just to operate and grow could suddenly find themselves completely cut off. According to Dalio, this could easily trigger a major stock market crash, impacting everything from global trade all the way down to your own retirement savings. All of this instability creates enormous risk, of course, but also huge opportunity. And for rising nations around the world, the next few years really represent a critical fork in the road. During these big moments of global realignment, some countries just get crushed by the waves of change, while others somehow manage to navigate the chaos, and they emerge stronger than ever. It all really comes down to leadership and internal stability. Let's just take a country like India as a perfect example. over the next few years, it's facing two completely different futures. I mean, if it can prove to the world that it's a stable haven in the middle of a storm, global investment could just flood in, fueling a historic economic boom. But if it mismanages the coming economic shocks, that same investment will flee, and that could lead to job losses and a period of real hardship for its people. And that's really the bottom line. Dalio isn't talking about some distant future 50 years from now. He is saying the decisive period is happening right now. The next 2 to 3 years, he argues, will determine the economic fate of entire nations for decades to come. So, as we stand here on the edge of this new era, with the old rules collapsing all around us and new conflicts brewing, the central question really remains: who is going to have the foresight and the stability to not just survive the chaos, but to actually win the turbulent peace that comes after?